Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Ashtotar Satashri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Brindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mayi Ki Jai Jamuna Mayi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, and welcome everyone for Srimad Bhagavatam with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. It is Monday, April 7th, 2025 in New York, and we're starting a new chapter, chapter 13 in the fourth canto, entitled Description of the Descendants of Dhruva Maharaj. It's titled slightly differently in Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's version. It's a spoiler alert, the birth of King Vena. There, I've given it away. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sutta Uvacha Nishamya Kosharavino Pavanitang Dhuvasya Vaikunta Padadhirohanam Prarudhabhavo Bhagavatyadhokshaje Prashtung Punastang Vidura Prachakrame. Sutta Goswami, continuing to speak to all the rishis, headed by Shaunaka, said, after hearing Maitreya Rishi describe Dhruva Maharaja's ascent to Lord Vishnu's abode, Vidura became very much enlightened in devotional emotion, and he inquired from Maitreya as follows. Purport. As evidenced in the topics between Vidura and Maitreya, the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the devotees are so fascinating that neither the devotee who is describing them nor the devotee who is hearing is at all fatigued by the inquiries and answers. Transcendental subject matter is so nice that no one becomes tired of hearing or speaking. Others who are not devotees may think, how can people devote so much time simply to talks of God? But devotees are never satisfied or satiated in hearing and speaking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead or about his devotees. The more they hear and talk, the more they become enthusiastic to hear. The chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is simply the repetition of 3 words, Hare, Krishna, and Rama. But still, devotees can go on chanting this Hare Krishna mantra 24 hours a day without feeling fatigued. Om Jnana Timirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Others who are not devotees may think, how can people devote so much time simply to talks of God? Prabhupada brings this out because this is commonly held view in the material world, very commonly, especially by the Mayavadis or those with Mayavadi-like tendencies, because ultimately the goal is to reduce God to nothing. And so from their point of view, when we're talking about Krishna, we're not talking about anything. So also you can consider Krishna's analysis of this situation when he tells Arjuna, Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. For those who are devoted to serving him, he gives those people the kind of intelligence that draw them closer to him. And unspoken, but the converse of that is, it's true of the non-devotees that yogamaya samavritaha. He withholds that intelligence so that they're not interested. Because after all, buddhi is a function of where we put our interest. So if we're not interested, we won't want to hear, or we'll think that we're just talking about nothing. Hare Krishna. Maharaj, we'd love to hear from you if you have something to say here.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtachite Shatani Vanchakolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Praruta Bhavo Bhagavat Yadhokshaje. The Vidura, it's described why was he, what was his mentality in asking for further information. Praruta Bhavo, his devotional feeling was still further increased. Bhava, ecstasy, just the prior stage of love of God, or yes, ecstatic feeling. It wasn't just obligation or a formality, but it was ecstatic to hear about Bhagavan Hokshaja, the inconceivable supreme personality of Godhead. So with that feeling, and naturally the hearer, when the speaker, when the hearer is in ecstasy by hearing the topics, he becomes further enlivened. If the audience is dull, then it doesn't inspire the speaker very much. But when the audience is in ecstasy hearing the topics, then naturally the speaker becomes more ecstatic as well. Hare Krishna.
Jai Jai. Thank you, Maharaj. Radhesha Prabhu confesses to everyone in the chat window, sometimes I feel fatigued when chanting japa.
Yeah. Durudaiva Midrashami Hajani Nananam. We're chanting out of obligation. We're chanting in the less than pure stage, less than perfect stage. So then we feel tired while chanting. We feel distracted while chanting. But in the perfect stage, we'll feel ecstasy while chanting. We're aspiring for that. Hare Krishna.
Praveen Krishna Prabhu offers Nityang Nirikshamananam Yadapi Dvarakau Kasam Navitripyanti Hidrishaha Shriyo Dhamangam Achyutam. The inhabitants of Dwarka were regularly accustomed to looking upon the reservoir of all beauty, the infallible Lord, yet they were never satiated.
Very nice. Thank you.
Saraswati Mata says, Pranams Param Puji Maharaj and all the Vaishnavas. My father met a childhood friend after 50 years, and the friend asked my father, with great puzzlement, how father can be chanting most of the day. And my father replied, how can you not? And he added that in sleep he doesn't so much, and that is indeed a failing. I chirped in that he doesn't chant when he chastises me, and father corrected that correcting me is needed for my progress, so it's not outside the realm of service to Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Shall we move forward?
Sure. Panchatattva Prabhu, we're so happy to see you here. Could you possibly read our next verse, or verses, as the case may be?
I just solved my audio problems, so I don't know what verse we're on, and for other reasons I don't know. So if you could let me know.
Sure. Canto 4, Chapter 13, text number 2, just now.
Text 2. 4:13:2. Vidura uvacha kete prachetaso nama Kusyapatyani suvrata, Kusyanugaye prakyata, Kutravasatram asata. Vidura inquired from Maitreya, O greatly advanced devotee, who were the Prachetas? To which family did they belong? Whose sons were they? And where did they perform the great sacrifices? Purport. The great Narada's singing in the previous chapter of 3 verses in the sacrificial arena of the Prachetas gave another impetus to Vidura to ask further questions. Don't have a comment. Anyone does? Guru Maharaj, would you like to say something?
No, it's clear.
If you like, Prabhu, please go ahead and read text 3 as well.
Manye Maha Bhagavatam Naradam Devadarshanam Yena Prokta Kriya Yoga Paricharya Vidhir Harehe. Vidura continued, I know that the great sage Narada is the greatest of all devotees. He has compiled the Pancharatrika procedure of devotional service and has directly met the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. There are 2 different ways of approaching the Supreme Lord. One is called Bhagavat Marga, or the way of Srimad Bhagavatam, and the other is called Pancharatrika Vidhi. Pancharatrika Vidhi is the method of temple worship, and Bhagavat Vidhi is the system of 9 processes, which begin with hearing and chanting. The Krishna consciousness movement accepts both processes simultaneously, and thus enables one to make steady progress on the path of realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This Pancharatrika procedure was first introduced by the great sage Narada, as referred to here by Vidura. Om Jnana Timarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshunvanitanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Gurudasa Jayadvaita Swami Niti Namane. Not much to say other than the Pancharatrika Vidhi goes back a ways, doesn't it? It was introduced by Sri Narada Muni, and therefore practically as old as the universe. And of course, Bhagavat Marg, I like here, I note immediately that Bhagavat Marg is called the way of Srimad Bhagavatam. Indeed, it's enshrined in the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj and elsewhere, the 9 processes of devotional service, and they're synonymous. Bhagavat Marg, the way of Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna.
Also, the Bhagavat Marg and the Pancharatrika Marg and Bhagavat Marg are compared and contrasted here. So it's said that we should follow both. The path of the rules and regulations for deity worship, and the path of engaging directly in the Bhagavad Vidhi. The Pancharatrika Marg stands in contrast to the Vedic rules. According to the Vedas, there's so many rules and regulations, what you have to do, how you have to behave, what are the rules for worship, everything very exacting, and presupposing that one is born in twice born, that one is twice born, the Garbhadhan Samskara has been performed at the time of conception, that one is a qualified member of the Varnashram institution. All of that's presupposed. But in Kali Yuga, you can't presuppose that. Not at all. Therefore, following the Vedic path will not be appropriate, will not be possible. But the Pancharatriki Vidhi can be adopted in this age. So by the grace of Narad Muni, things are made, adjusted according to the time, made practical. Hare Krishna.
Praveen Krishna Prabhu says, doesn't the 9 methods apply to the temple worship?
Yeah,
Punch
I was thinking the same thing while I was saying it. Yes, that's also there. Therefore, Prabhupada distinguishes Bhagavat Marg, especially as the path of hearing, chanting, and preaching. The temple worship may be performed according to the rules and regulations, but preaching, Prabhupada distinguished as particularly belonging to the Bhagavat Marg. Kirtan, that Gaudiya Math symbol is there, on one side the paraphernalia for deity worship, and on the other side the Bhagavatam and the printing press. So hearing and chanting, Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing Bhagavatam, chanting, or distributing the message of Bhagavatam, Prabhupada particularly counts that as Bhagavat Marg.
He said, Praveen Krishna Prabhu says, thank you. I think you've anticipated the rest of his question. Just to make sure that that I understand, I'm going to read it though. He said, don't the 9 methods apply to the temple worship, Pancharatrika Vidhi too, like hearing and remembering the deity? There is also Archanam of the 9. Isn't it Pancharatra then? What is the distinguishing factor between the two? And I think you've answered that. All right.
Also, well, leave it at that.
All right.
Well, yes, we can add that generally the deity worship is performed according to rules and regulations. So the rules and regulations are given in the Pancharatriki Marg. And the Bhagavat Marg is on the higher platform. But I think the previous answer is more to the point.
Okay. I should say, anyone who'd like to read and comment, please let me know in the chat. And until that happens, would Madhupati Prabhu like to read our text number 4?
We have a question here, a live question
So
from my poor Chandra Prabhu.
thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, Prabhu. Do we have to follow both the process, or can we follow only Bhagavat process and Shravanam Kirtanam, or do we have to have the deity worship also?
One can perform only the Bhagavat process, but then one has to be on the platform for performing only the Bhagavat process. And therefore, we're recommended to follow the Pancharatriki process. If one is on the perfected stage, he doesn't have to follow any process of rules and regulations. But even those who are qualified follow the rules and regulations. Sankhya Purvaka Namagana Nativi Kalavas Sanikrita Nidraha. The Goswamis followed everything. But so they set the example that we should follow both methods. Prabhupada said as a train moves on 2 rails, these Pancharatriki Vidhi, Bhagavat Vidhi should be performed in parallel.
Follow-up question. Pancharatriki Vidhi, is it there's the deity worship is only because Bhagavad Vidhi also has the out of 9 kind of devotion, there is Archanam is there also. So Pancharatriki Vidhi is a Vaidhi Bhakti and Bhagavatam Vidhi is the Raganuga Bhakti, or Pancharatriki Vidhi is only for the deity worship?
You know, I haven't explicitly seen Prabhupada say that, so I should be careful about that. But generally, he characterizes it that way, that Pancharatrika Vidhi means following the rules and regulations, especially for deity. Now, in the deity worship, one's personal activities also are prescribed, how one should act so that one is fit for the deity worship. But basically, it's the way Prabhupada describes it is that way. And that symbol is given also, the deity worship on the one side and the preaching on the other side. Hare Krishna.
All right. Madhupati Prabhu, are you? Yes.
All right. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Gurudas Jayadvaita Swami Namine.
I'm just going to say something if you don't mind.
Go ahead, man. Mhm.
But the background is very attractive, Madhupati, but then we have our backs to the deities.
Okay.
Say,
That's a good point. I'll try to remove it for a minute.
it's a trap of the digital age.
Mhm.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. I'll remove it after the class. Swadharmasalai Purushai Bhagavan Yagya Purusha Ijyamano Bhakti Mata Narada Nerita Kila Naradena Irita Kila. While all the Prachetas were executing religious rituals and sacrificial ceremonies, and thus worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his satisfaction, the great sage Narada described the transcendental qualities of Dhruva Maharaj. Perfect. Narad Muni is always glorifying the pastimes of the Lord. In this verse, we see that not only does he glorify the Lord, but he also likes to glorify the devotees of the Lord. The great sage Narada's mission is to broadcast the devotional service of the Lord. For this purpose, he has compiled the Narada Pancharatra, a directory of devotional service, so that devotees can always take information about how to execute devotional service, and thus engage 24 hours a day in performing sacrifices for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has created 4 orders of social life, namely Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. In the Narada Pancharatra, it is very clearly described how each of the social orders can please the Supreme Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, 45th verse, it is stated, Sweswe karmani abhirataha samsiddhim labhate naraha. By executing one's prescribed duties, one can please the Supreme Lord. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 2nd chapter, 13th verse, also it is stated, Swanustitasya dharmasya samsiddhi haritoshanam. The perfection of duty is to see that by discharging one's specific duties, one satisfies the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When the Prachetas were performing sacrifices, according to this direction, Narad Muni was satisfied to see these activities. And he also wanted to glorify Dhruva Maharaj in that sacrificial arena. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurmitanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So further to Vidura's inquiry about the Prachetas, we see here Maitreya Muni is mentioning, while all the Prachetas were executing religious rituals and sacrificial ceremonies, and thus worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his satisfaction, the great sage Narada described the transcendental qualities of Dhruva Maharaj. So, Narad Muni is always glorifying the pastimes of the Lord. And through his Narada Pancharatra, he has described in detail of how one can carry out all activities for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And yeah, it's mentioned the directory of devotional service so that devotees can take information about how to execute devotional service from Narada Pancharatra. And Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that this 4 social life, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, for them also Narada Pancharatra very clearly specifies what in each classes what activities they can perform, devotional activities they can perform, so that 24 hours they can be engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Swanustistasya dharmasya samsiddhi haritoshanam. In perfection of duties, by discharging one's specific duties, one satisfies the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that in all our duties, somehow or other we satisfy completely the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when the Prachetas were performing those activities, Narad Muni was satisfied to see that activities, and at the same time he wanted to glorify Dhruva Maharaj. That arena. Yeah. So that's what now the Pancharatra Narad Muni has compiled for taking specific direction for performing devotional service. That's all I have.
The glorification of the Lord involves the glorification of the devotees. Just glorifying the Lord is not so satisfying. If we just glorify the Lord, you're this, you're that. But the Lord likes to be glorified in relationship to his devotees. Every Yashoda Nandan, Nandana, and so on. So many names of Krishna in relationship to the devotees. Without the devotees, the worship of the Lord is more or less impersonal. The Lord's dealing to the Lord is glorified or appreciated, beautified in relationship to the devotees. That's where the Lord's glories fully manifest themselves. Hey Krishna, Krishna Sakha. Oh Krishna, you're Krishna Sakha, the friend of Arjuna. Then so many things about the Lord can come to mind. How he spoke to the Bhagavad Gita, how he protected Arjuna from the attack by Bhishma Dev. All of these things come to mind. Then we see the glories of the Lord in action, how Lord Nrsingadev protected Prahlad Maharaj, Paratranaya Sadhu, even in relation to the demons. The Lord is glorified. Yes, he's glorified. Of course, the demons are the devotees who've taken that role for the service of the Lord. And the Lord, Vinashaya Tradushkritam, destroys the demons for the satisfaction of the devotees. Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Vidyanti Yuge. So we appreciate the glories of the Lord. Otherwise, just like Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavan, then the Lord's abode, the Lord's devotees, the Lord's pastimes. So Rup, his form, his names, his qualities, all of these are implied when there's glorification of the Lord. Not that, yes, you can glorify the Lord, but don't glorify any devotees. Lord is glorified in relation to his devotees. Then Swadharma Shilai, they were following their prescribed duties. So they were a good audience. Narad Muni, you can say, liked the Prachetas or favored the Prachetas because they were Swadharma Shilai. They were performing their prescribed duties. Although, as we'll see, they could do more. Hare Krishna. Yes, Saraswati.
Maharaj, Guru Maharaj said very clearly that Srila Prabhupada's Guru Puja is at one time, it is here in India, and then after an hour or whatever, 5 hours or something. For every hour in every part of the world, Srila Prabhupada's Guru Puja is performed. So Srila Prabhupada is glorified, you know, he's the pure devotee of Krishna. So, you know, you glorify Krishna, glorify Krishna's devotee, Krishna's place. And this is going on all the time. You don't think that it's finished here, but it started somewhere else. That was a wonderful example. I just wanted to reiterate.
Very good point.
Nice. Mahavishnu Maharaj gave this. Very nice. Okay. Was there another question there? No. Okay, we can.
Questions in the chat here. Praveen Krishna Prabhu writes, is there a publication available of the Narada Pancharatra by any ISKCON / Gaudiya Vaishnava?
I've seen, you know, if you go to Raspberry Bihari Lal, everything in the universe is available. But I haven't really looked at what's there. Maybe Banu Maharaj may have translated. I don't know. Yes.
We have a manual by the deity ministry.
We have the deity worship manual, but the question was specifically about Narada Pancharatra. So I don't know, haven't gone through anything.
Saraswati Mastri writes, first question, does the spiritual division of human society into Varna and Ashram exist in the spiritual world too?
Yes. Nanda Baba and Yashoda Mai are married. So the Grahastha ashram is there. The other ashrams are represented. And the Varnas are represented. The Nanda Yashoda and the cowherds, they're in the Vaishya department. But then there Madhu Mangals are Brahmin. Vrindavan is mostly Vaishyas and Brahmins. But these divisions are there, but they're for pastimes. In the material world, they're for the smooth running of society and for the advancement of the conditioned soul through the various stages of material life, whether in terms of occupation or in terms of one's stage of life. So that's not necessary in the spiritual world, but for pastimes. There are Brahmins, there are Vaishyas, there have to be householders like Nanda Yashoda. Brahmacharis can also be there. Everything. Even sannyasis can be there for pastimes. But not for freedom from material existence. There's no need.
Saraswati Masterji writes, second question, stated here that perfection of duty is to see that by discharging one's specific duties, one satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So under what circumstances can the following apply? Tyaktva svadharmam charanam bhujam hare.
Yes, finally Krishna says sarva dharman pratyajya. Mamekam sharanam vraja. One can give up everything else to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Generally, one is advised to follow one's prescribed duties according to Varna and Ashram. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was talking with Ramananda Roy, what should be our business in life? Yes, Varnashrama Charvata Purushena Parapuman Vishnu Aradyate Panta Nanyata Toshakarnam. Yes, follow Varnashram. No, Bhaya. This is external. Say something more. So, all right, this is also required for our reformation, for our purification. But there comes a time when there's more important things. When one is advised, no, don't waste your time on following all these rules and regulations. The mission is there. The spiritual master has some service for you to do. You can put these other things aside. Sarvadharman pratyaj. Mamekam sharanam. So that, but that should be done under proper guidance or in the mature stage. Not otherwise, it becomes impulsive, or it becomes what's the word? Artificial. It becomes simply irresponsible. That I give up my prescribed duties just by a kind of sentiment. Yes, I'll give up householder life. I don't care about wife, children. Detachment is the higher principle. Love for Krishna is the higher principle. And then, within 6 months, he's got a girlfriend, or he's, something else. So it shouldn't be whimsical. Ye Shastra Vidamutsrija Vartate Kamakarta Nasasiddhim Avapnoti Nasukam Naparamgate. One shouldn't whimsically give up one's prescribed duties, but under proper direction. But if somehow or other, if one gives up one's prescribed duties for the sake of Krishna, under proper guidance, and still he falls down, no harm. Name Bhakta Pranashati. He'll continue. He won't be able to give up thinking about Krishna. He won't be able to forget the taste of devotional service. Yes.
Bhagavad Gita 240. Krishna would never forget that whatever little service is done. Neha
Kamana Shosti Pratyavayana Vidite. Swapamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahatmabhaya. Then also in the 6th chapter, that even if he falls down, then
Yoginam Atva Yoginam.
Prapya Punyakatam Bhakanu Shitva Shashvati Shuchinam Srinatam Gehe Yoga Vrashto Vijayate. Pick it up again. Therefore, check Vasudharna Charanam Bhakti.
Nachatafa Prabhu writes, nothing ventured, nothing gained. In Krishna consciousness, something ventured always gain.
Yeah, we should be always seeking to advance, not very happy with our present situation. That all right, everything satisfactory. I don't have to do anything. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what is that? Duradai Pamitra Srimihajani Nami. I'm chanting, but I have no attachment for chanting. I'm not satisfied. Yes, I'm doing everything, but always thinking I have to do more. Not to satisfy my spiritual master, satisfy Krishna, I have to do more. Hare Krishna.
Raveen. Krishna Prabhu writes, Navai Janu Jatu Katan Shana Rajan Mukunda Sevi Anyabad Anga Samsritim Smaran Ukundangri Upaguhanam Punar Vihatum Ichen Rasa Graho Jana. My dear Vyasa, even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes falls down somehow or other, he certainly does not undergo material existence like others, fruitive workers, etc., because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again.
Thank you.
All right, Krishna, we have just a bit of time left, maybe for a short verse, such as text number 5. Radhesha Prabhu, are you able to read and comment on text 5?
I can do a short verse. Text 5. Yasta devarshina tatra varnita bhagavat kata mahyam shushushave brahman kardsnena chashtumarhasi. My dear Brahmana, how did Narada Muni glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and what pastimes were described in that meeting? I am very eager to hear of them. Kindly explain fully about that glorification of the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam is the record of Bhagavad Katha, topics about the pastimes of the Lord. What Vidura was anxious to hear from Maitreya, we can also hear 5,000 years later, provided we are very eager. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Gurudasa Jayadvaita Swami Namine. Actually, I was thinking about when Praveen Krishna Prabhu posted that the residents of the Dwarakaukasham, the residents of Dwarka, are never satiated from seeing Krishna. I thought of another Vitripyama verse, Vayam Tuna Vitripyama, that the sages are never satisfied, never satiated, hearing Svadhu Svadhu Pade Pade. They want to relish again and again. Those who are rasa jnana, conversant with the mellows of devotional service, they're never satisfied. And so many examples are there, beginning with Parikshit Maharaj himself, who's fasting for 7 days, and he's not, sometimes during Bhagavatam class, we're looking at the clock. Oh, when will breakfast come? There's the common joke devotees say that Om Namo Bhagavate puts us to sleep and Mahaprasade Govinde, wakes us up. And so we have these sort of material deficiencies in us that we're not, we don't have a taste. But for one who does have a taste, like here we're seeing, is very eager, provided we're very eager. Vidura is shushu shave, he's very eager. And for one who has that eagerness, then sadyo hridyavatut, sadyo hridyavarudryate takritibi, shushu shabhis takshanat. One who's very eager to hear this message, Srimad Bhagavatam begins, it tells us that the Lord manifests in their heart very quickly. And when the Lord is there in the devotee's heart, then they're no longer affected by material thirst and hunger and lamentation, any of the 6 enemies. We always used to sing the song with Govardhan Puja, we're not hungry, we're not thirsty, we don't even want to sleep. You know, when you're there with Krishna, when you're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, you're there with Krishna. And we just had Narada Muni described as Mahabhagavat. So Sarva Bhagavata Prana. For the devotees, Srimad Bhagavatam is their prana, is their life. Srimad Bhagavata Prabho, oh Srimad Bhagavatam. So if provided, Srila Prabhupada says, provided we're very eager to hear, then we can also 5,000 years later hear these descriptions. That's our great fortune, and my great fortune to be in the Sangha hearing these pastimes 5,000 years later. Thank you.
Thank you, Radhesha Prabhu. Since you mentioned that, and since I have Swami Jyoti Krishna Prabhu here, I'm reminded of the late Mahavishnu Maharaj and how enthusiastic he was for Bhagavad Gita. I would be even before he accepted initiation, I'd be sometimes giving class at Soho Street, and he would regularly always come. And even if the other devotees were a little sleepy, a little dull, he'd be so enlivened about Bhagavatam, and he'd always you could see he was absorbed in Bhagavatam. He would have so many verses that he would mention from time to time, or you'd mention a verse, or even just allude to a verse, and you could see he was right in it. So that taste for Bhagavatam is wanted. That taste for hearing Bhagavatam and for speaking Bhagavatam. Prabhupada said, because I was enthusiastic about hearing, now I'm enthusiastic about chanting or preaching. So that Radha Govinda Maharaj comes to mind also, how such a taste for Bhagavad Gita. So that this is a sign of a real devotee, that he's always eager to hear the topics of Krishna, and eager to glorify, to speak about the topics of Krishna. Materialists, they always enthusiastic for some stupid katha, meaningless, unimportant, useless, contaminating even talks that have no relation to the absolute. There's always some relation, but the dimmest perverted relation to the absolute truth. They help us forget the absolute truth, and that way they're related. But and so they waste their life. And even in devotional service, when we don't have a taste for Bhagavad Gita, then we fill our time with ordinary topics, as if we had all the time in the world. Where we don't have that eagerness to chant, to hear, then we have to fill it with some political katha or some gramya katha, ordinary talks. Then it's our misfortune, even we'll feel it, that this is not very, no, we have to be keen to develop that. What is it Prabhupada said? One who has developed the urge for hearing about him. Maybe one who's developed the urge for hearing. It's like, I got to do this. One feels, this is what I must hear. Like a person who's hungry, if he doesn't get food, I have to have something. So the devotees feels like he's starving if there's no Krishna Katha. There's got to be Krishna Katha. When is the Krishna Katha going to be going on? When will I develop the eagerness to hear, to chant? That desire is there. Hare Krishna. I'm also facing a reminder that tomorrow, at least in New York, is Ekadasi. So it's another opportunity for hearing, chanting, remembering. Hare Krishna.
Saraswati Mataji writes, hearing about things not connected with Krishna Katha gives you an excruciating headache.
Yes. Headache Gata.
Thank you. So Maharaj, if you have some devotees there with you, perhaps they'd like to lead some kirtan, I'm hoping.
Who would like to lead Kirtan?
One question in that reference. Can I ask in the reference last verse?
Well, we're out of time. Sounds like you're trying to escape Kirtan.
No, we can do the kirtan.
It's fine, Jyoti. Would you like to lead Kirtan?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you, Maharaj.
Jai Om Vishnu Pad Panumantra Pariprajaka Charja Stotra Shri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai
Jai.
Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Famous Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shlam Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai
Yeah.
Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai
Yeah.
Ramai Ki Jai Ramanamai Ki Jai
Yeah.
Bhakti Devi Ki Jai
Yeah.
Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande.
Jai Jai. Thank you so much, Maharaj, and thank you all the devotees there and all the devotees in general for joining and hearing and participating. Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj ki Jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you, Panchatattva Prabhu. Thank you to all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.